What is going on, everybody? It is episode 244 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. We have a two-person show for you guys today. Hopefully more of a chill vibe. Hopefully without as many tech issues as we've had the last couple of days.
I do want to give a heads up ahead of time that I've been working to figure out what is going on with the issues with OBS. We're working through it. I did 2 test streams last night that seemed to hold up fine, but was having some issues today. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up, and I will be paying attention to the chat today because it is a 2-person show that if an issue does come up, if we do lose connection, I am going to restart the stream and we will finish it. I do apologize for that stuff. I know that is not the best thing to have happen, but I did think it was necessary to at least address it before we got started today. You guys are having your own conversations. You're not even listening to us, are you? I can seriously. They're talking about chickens in there. Yep. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today.
Someone said chill zaddy BCC time.
We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about David Zaslav's recent comments about Batman and paring back the Batman character in favor of a more focused DC universe with James Gunn at the helm of that. We are going to talk about Dave Chappelle hoodwinking the SNL creators.
That's a lovely word.
Mary does not like that word. I used it earlier. We're going to talk about them. Dave Chappelle hoodwinking Saturday Night Live so that he could give his monologue, thank you, unencumbered from criticism before it went live. We are also going to talk about Candace Cameron Bure and the release of what is called the Great American Family Channel, and she has some traditional values that she wants to push through. It's like a Hallmark. It's like their version of the Hallmark Channel, and she's getting some
ghettoized version of Hallmark.
We are pushing forward very quickly to nothing but all entertainment being kind of ghettoized all over the place, and she's getting pushed back because of her comments about traditional marriage. I thought the whole article was actually really interesting because I felt like the tone between her and the other celebrity, Hillary Burton, who made her comments, they kind of showed a dichotomy.
I'm excited to get into that.
So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift and Drake coming to, I guess they're not coming to blows. Drake made some comments about Taylor Swift after she brought down the Ticketmaster charts. He made some comments relating to the #1 charts on Billboard where he covered her face up and people are mad at him for doing that. Thank you, guys. We've got that. We've got a bunch of other stuff. So if you, Mary, are ready, we can just get right into it. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm just looking at the chat and someone called for merch where both of our heads are put on chicken bodies. And it's disturbing to think about. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, any merch wear with me and a chicken, I don't want anything to do with personally, but maybe
I'd rather not.
Exactly. All right. Let's get right into it. So this is from Gizmodo. It says that future DC films will be more focused with less Batman. Off the cuff, I thought that was a bad choice because Batman is their biggest moneymaker, but he's also a huge crutch for DC to spend all of their time focusing on Batman when they don't seem to be able to get it right.
It's gotten very haphazard and confusing for people. So it was at this business conference that Zaslav said the strategy that former Disney CEO Bob Iger put together was all Marvels in one place. You don't wake up and find out that there's a Batman TV show somewhere and a Batman cartoon somewhere else. They all have to relate to each other. There has to be a look and feel for all of it. And so I went on a journey a few months ago of how do I put all of DC in one place? Because I think it's one of the biggest opportunities at this company.
Yep, and he's wondering about that. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is they talked about Gunn. The first thing I noticed is that Gunn is also supposed to direct. But here's the thing. Bob Iger, not Bob Iger. Kevin Feige doesn't direct the movies. He directs the universe as a whole. He's kind of an overseer. How is he going to be able to both direct movies as well as run the entire universe? Like, there's literally not enough time in the day. The other thing that is interesting about that is I imagine that Kevin Feige has his favorite characters, but if you're James Gunn and your favorite characters are the ones you end up directing, are you going to naturally put more of a focus on those characters because they're the ones that you have that you've been guiding?
It sounds more like Zaslav has assigned them what to focus on, and it's not really their choice. So Safran has been assigned to fix Aquaman, whatever that means. Maybe it means figuring out which Batman is going to cameo in Aquaman sequel.
Well, they've already shot the scenes with Ben Affleck. That was
Yeah,
funny.
but then they already had scripts written that involved Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yeah, and not just that. In the Michael Keaton's version of Batman will be in the Flash. Then we have Robert Pattinson's version of Batman.
That's supposed to be a one-off, but is it? Because some people are calling for more movies with Robert Pattinson.
In that one, they said wouldn't be till 2025 at the earliest, anyways. So what do you do? So without 4 Batmans, the other one that they mentioned, there's like, what would the 4th one be? I guess that would be in reference to the animated universe, but also the young Bruce Wayne that was there in the Joker movie.
Oh, yeah. I barely remembered that.
So what's interesting is that I think Pattinson is probably the more universally liked right now because people tended to be happier with that portrayal, with that character. But I would say that Ben Affleck's version of Batman fits more tonally to the connected universe, meaning that the grittier and much, much more serious tone of the Batman doesn't really fit tonally with the way that they're doing the rest of their movies, as we saw with Black Adam. That wasn't the most serious of movies, even as he's off like taking people out left and right. But maybe the next best thing is just recast him. I know you want to keep on this train that you've built up all these movies, but I think it's time to recast.
It doesn't make sense to bring back Robert Pattinson as the premier Batman for going forward the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Since they're trying to copy the Marvel model, I don't know if that's a good idea, but since that's the strategy they're going for, they're trying to write this DC Bible for the next decade of the whole slate of scheduled movies and films that all have this connected universe. The Robert Pattinson Batman movie was not part of a connected universe.
No, it wasn't.
So that wouldn't be sticking to why he originally played that role.
Still easy enough to reincorporate. I mean, they can use literally the Flash and Flashpoint, and any of those storylines could be used to just, oh, look, whoops, magic. Now he exists in this universe. But tonally, that doesn't fit, right? Then you take Robert Pattinson in the very serious tone of the Batman, and you throw it in there with Peacemaker and Aquaman and all these other characters that are far, far more serious. And as much as I enjoyed the Robert Pattinson portrayal of Batman, I didn't like that movie a whole lot. I thought it was too long. I didn't think it was Matt Reeves' best work. I know a lot of people enjoyed that film. It wasn't my personal favorite of them. And I don't really think they need to do Ben Affleck outside of those cameos either. Maybe it's time to just go ahead and recast, though I don't know who you get to do that. And I think what a lot of this does is proves that there is a certain amount of confusion with a lot of this stuff.
It seems like the only option they have in mind is to imitate Marvel, and you can see that there are pitfalls in that because people are already fatigued with Marvel.
Yep.
Why would they want to follow that model that they see crashing and burning before our eyes?
I don't even think they should.
And eventually, I see Marvel running itself into the ground. Eventually, they will wring out that sponge. There will be no more money left to be made. They'll have ruined the franchise. And then eventually a larger corporation is going to come along, scoop them up, and recycle the whole thing all over again. That's what I see coming for Marvel. So
larger than Disney.
DC needs to pick their own direction.
Larger than Disney? Who's going to...
I mean, Disney is going to want to pass them off at that point.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I think there's too much money to
That's
be made
the
in
direction
toys.
I see Marvel going.
I think there's too much money to be made in toys and merch and rides and stuff that can be incorporated into the non-film and motion picture version of Disney for them to sell that off at any point. I think they hold on to them. Even if the movies become even more subpar, there's so much money to be made in clothes and for kids clothes and stuff at the parks and the theme parks. There's way too much money there. I don't think it's all about corporate synergy. That's what they want. They want corporate synergy.
Yikes.
What is it? I saw one. Mary says I have poor not you, Mary. Jared says, Brett, you have poor taste. Well, you know what? That is why
are they saying that?
I think they're saying because I didn't like
Matt
the Batman.
Reeves?
Because I didn't like the Matt Reeves Batman movie. It wasn't that I didn't like the movie as a whole. I thought it was too long, and I thought the ending was just too drawn out. But again, that's to each their own. That's the way it is. But again, I didn't like any of the. It's not like I really enjoyed any of the any of the Ben Affleck versions. I don't think that they ever hit any of those out of the park at all. I think they've all been substandard. And one thing DC is constantly doing is jumping the gun and trying to release stuff too quickly. The best thing they could do right now is to reset And I don't think they're going to do that because when you now have a connected universe, everything is all of these tendrils that are all connected tenuously, and they don't know what pieces to cut away, what pieces to hold on to. We don't want Henry Cavill. Oh, yes, no, we do want Henry Cavill. Do we want Aquaman? We want Aquaman. We like Aquaman. Ezra Miller, he's over there talking to kids creepily. What do we do with him? Like, there's just there's too many moving parts, and that's the problem I have with it. As much as I didn't prefer the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, I would prefer that approach, meaning tell singular stories and worry about a connected universe later.
None of those PR concerns or conflicting interests, moving parts would even matter if they decided to move away from this connected universe model. My gut feeling is that I dislike the connected universe idea. Yeah. I don't want them to go in that direction.
I didn't think they needed to. From the beginning, I thought
you don't need to do that in order to make a ton of money.
Smaller budgets, less risky on your investment, and hire better story writers.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I don't know why they want to be Marvel so bad. It's not going to be good for them.
I suppose the idea is that like there's more money to be made off platform with connected universe and stuff like that.
With like TV series on HBO Max?
Well, not just that, but a recognizable Batman that can be sold as toys, to kids.
They don't have that already, you think?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you start making one-offs, then kids, it's like, which version of the Batman are you going to buy? And then there's branding concerns, all those things. There's just...
I don't know if kids even care.
Porco Rosso forever says Pfizer could buy Marvel. Yes, remember they did that comic. They did they did the weird propaganda comic.
Merger incoming.
Yes. Quiet Anari says, I miss silly Batman. I don't want silly Batman back. I think that the Bale movies, I think those films, the Christian Bale ones, were a good middle ground between not the most serious movies of all time, but still took itself seriously.
I wouldn't know. I'm not an expert.
Okay, so it's Johnny Derp says, would love to have an Adam West era Batman homage complete with Bam on the screen. Yes, if they had the graphics on the screen, say Bam, pow.
Do you want to talk about this lawsuit then?
Yeah.
So Chris Wozniak has just started a civil suit against Warner Brothers because he thinks Matt Reeves developed his screenplay for the Batman based on a story that he pitched in 1990. And he has a Twitter account called Batmangate.
It's so funny because it's like, it's not when this originally came out, we were going to cover it and I just decided not to because I don't think there's actually anything to this lawsuit. I think.
Do you think he's clout chasing and trying to get attention on his new graphic novel?
No, because this has been going on for months, and if he's taking it to court, he's spending money on it.
Well, actually, I think he's crowdfunding his legal fees.
Yeah, well, he had like one donation or two donations. Like, I kind of feel bad for the guy. I don't know if he actually buys that they're disconnected, but there's so much different between the stories that it's kind of silly. Well, he
says that, the theme of the Riddler, I guess he says that Matt Reeves took the plot point of the Riddler, like cursing Gotham with a plague and twisted that into a biblical flood plot point, but it's still copyright infringement.
Yeah. So
why exactly, I don't know, because that is essentially changing what it was.
It's really funny. Here's the plot that he has, and then the Batman 2022. This is from the original post some months ago. The reason it's being brought up now is because he just filed the lawsuit in federal court to do this. So it says Batman at the end of his career. That was Wozniak's plot. This one, the Batman is Batman at the beginning of his career, and then the other one says commune is Riddler's surrogate family, and then the other one says orphanage is Riddler's surrogate family. Armageddon for everyone in the world. Judgment Day for everyone in Gotham. The other ones were really funny ones. Like, it's like Gotham is a crap hole with like corrupt police, which is like every Batman project ever. The police are always corrupt, right. And Gotham is always crappy.
So Chris Wozniak thinks that he created that idea.
Apparently, enough so that he could sue. And
does he have the right to sue for the themes that were in The Dark Knight?
Apparently not. But he's suing for he's looking to raise on his Indiegogo $3 million. Like, what? That's bonkers.
So he's trying to, I feel, latch on to a movement of people supporting independent creators in the comic book space.
Yep.
When he's not actually creating anything, he's just claiming that he was, bereaved somehow and doesn't have the evidence to support that. He's saying it would really be great if some of the public figures involved in this Batman film were to speak up on my behalf, because there needs to be more promotion of
he also says he said one of the
my
other,
cause.
Yeah, one of the other scenes that he says was similar was like he had a scene where Barbara Gordon gets blown up by a bomb, and in their movie Alfred got blown up with a bomb. I'm like, so
anyone getting blown up with a bomb is stolen from my plot.
Yes, they took it from that. So
maybe he's just butthurt that they never developed his plot into a film back when he pitched it.
Yep. So it says
he said, I was not credited anywhere. I was not paid anything. And in case you're wondering, that's not supposed to happen. So here I am asking Batman fans around the world to stop Hollywood from steamrolling yet another comic creator. I got absolutely nothing. That is not justice.
Yeah, he's very much trying to latch on to the fact that there are movements of people that do want to support independent creators that they feel have either been wronged by their industries or have...
well, it's generally supporting independent creators because they're creating a product that they believe is superior to the mainstream from big studios. Not because they have some right fight that they're doing on the internet.
He says there's no debating that my plot predates their screenplay, and that people who made this film were in possession of my plot, and there's the Riddler storyline in the film was directly derived from my plot. I don't get that. Like, I don't get that. The theme of the the theme of the Riddler being a serial killer and leaving clues at crime scenes is not new to him. So it just
seems like a grift. He's also tweeting about himself in the third person, which is weird. He tweeted, Matt Reeves needs to explain to press why unique, specific rewrites of Chris Wozniak's plot are in the Batman film. Proof his screenplay is a knockoff.
Is that to make his name searchable?
I guess.
Like, I don't know why else he would do that otherwise. Like, it's really creepy and kind of funny.
It's like he's made this war he's waging against Matt Reeves his entire online identity instead of just promoting his new work.
Maybe I'll start talking in the third person here on the show. Brett is here to start Pop Culture Crisis.
That would be really creepy.
She's like, I'm quitting. So beyond that, I don't.
The tech issues finally got him.
Yeah, they finally driven me to the edge, guys.
He's
I
in
apologize. I'm gonna need to go to Arkham Asylum. Also, I want to point out that Walter Hamada has got his next job after DC. He is moving on to a multi-year production deal with Paramount Studios, in which he's going to be developing and releasing several mid to low tier budget horror films, which I actually think, now this is just my opinion, given his credit history, far more in his wheelhouse, being somebody that was part of a lot of horror movies like the Conjuring series, The Nun.
He was also part of It.
Yes.
That was really successful.
And so he has a history within the world of horror. Annabelle, like, that seems to be his wheelhouse, his forte. And he talks about the joy of wanting to help creators. He had something really specific in here that I really liked. He says, I'm thrilled to collaborate with Paramount Pictures with the singular goal of creating exceptional movies in the horror genre. Over the course of my career, nothing has been more gratifying than discovering emerging first-time filmmakers and writers and unleashing their brilliance in the studio setting. It's very different from like a Marvel or a DC, where with Marvel, when they hire you, they're a Marvel movie director is a lot more like a network television director. The person who's really guiding the ship on a network television show is the showrunner. He's the one that's doing the majority of the heavy lifting as far as where the story is going. The director is there to shepherd each episode, get it through to the next one so that the next director can work on the next one. So when he's at DC, when they're on these big budget projects, he's not really going to help shepherd any young director into directing their first, brilliant motion picture with their own ideas. He's directing something that's part of a bigger project. Like Kevin Feige.
Usually sequels to larger franchises. But I think mid-level budget horror films have the potential to at least in part remedy the wokeness issue in the box office right now.
Financially they do.
But yes, because they make a lot of money and they don't take a lot of money to make.
Nope.
And I don't think that they have as much social capital as superhero films or just generally like action films. Any of the like Olivia Wilde or Steven Spielberg wannabe artsy projects.
There was some pushback to like when they did like Black Christmas, and there was like some feminist horror movies that were coming out for a while. Which,
but those are more like film festival type.
Nobody wants to see
things.
them. Like,
but like think about Smile. Like they did a really good job marketing that, and a lot of people have seen it. It's really successful, and no one's complaining about it. I don't know why that's so hard to accomplish, but it seems unique to the horror genre that they're able to do that with no strings attached.
They also point out in here that like he was part of like some of DC's bigger hits, like The Batman and Wonder Woman and Joker. But he was also part of misses like Wonder Woman 1984 and The Suicide Squad, which as much as I love that movie, didn't make any money at the box office.
He's also the champion of Black Superman at DC. So I don't know if he always knows what appeals to the mainstream audience. Despite being called a
racist by Ray Fisher.
Oh, yeah. Like, I forgot about that. But,
remember? He's like, you're a racist. He's like, I want to make Black Superman movies. What are you talking about? You can't say that.
I'm on no one's side in that situation.
We pick no winners here. Or we pick no victors. So also, I want to point out that one thing that's also going to come into question is that we are going to have to wonder whether we will get Superman and Lois season 3. They already canceled Stargirl, which a lot of people loved. And that was a project that, especially Jeff Johns, is particularly important to him because the character is based on his sister, who had died at a very young age. But we asked the other week, I asked on the show, I said, what is a good example recently of a show with good actual family values? And I should have mentioned this one, like the first 2 seasons of Superman and Lois. That's
interesting because the CW is notoriously everything has to be gay. Everything has to be trendy,
and that's why it was funny,
subversive in that way. So it's out of place on its own, network.
And they lost the actor that played Jonathan Kent in the show. He had to go and he went to like a mental health facility, just said that acting wasn't good for him right now. So I guess they were going to recast that character, but now having a 3rd season is in doubt. And I just don't know why they wouldn't, since it was already, I believe the funding for the show was originally done through HBO Max, which is why it looked like a higher budget show compared to the other shows that were on the CW. But it doesn't really matter because the CW is owned by Nexstar Media now, and they're moving very quickly away from scripted content into like reality TV type realms and stuff like that.
Into home flipping?
Yeah. And
cupcake baking?
Hey, man, everybody wants to put on something where they don't have to be like anxious 24/7.
There's a place for that.
There is. And they point out that for them, like they've already put a hold on, they're not creating new seasons of the shows that are already there. They are not doing beyond, they've only ordered the first 13 episodes of that Winchester show, the Supernatural spinoff. As well as they're putting a hold on the Walker Texas Ranger spinoff, which I can't believe I can even say that there's a Walker Texas Ranger show on the CW, but it is what it is. So it's kind of all encompassing. I would rather they just move it over to HBO Max and keep it going, but it goes to the same question. Do they want to have 4 versions of Superman? They've always seemed more willing to put multiple versions of Superman on screen than Batman.
Why is that?
Batman is too profitable. What I was always told is that Batman's too profitable to put him on TV. That it's not worth the return on the investment for diluting the character. You can put Bruce Wayne on TV, but they weren't putting Batman on network TV. Obviously, after Batman 1966 or whatever, Adam West Batman. So we'll see where that goes. I do hope that they can come through this, but it's like when I think of all this, I posted a video the other day where a guy goes, "Hi, James Gunn. Here's all the things they want you to do for when you take over DC Studios," and it's like a 3-minute video where they list all the problems he has to solve, and I got a migraine just thinking about it as a joke, let alone actual problems that James Gunn has to figure out. And he's got his own stuff and issues going on with The Rock, who's going to throw his weight around in Hollywood. The Rock is going to want his character to be front and center, as we know. And there's going to be a myriad of things that they have to solve if they're going to get there. But it's just too confusing. And I think it turns off the average viewer when you can't seem to get more than one good movie in a row anyways. Like, when was the last time they had like back-to-back movies that were good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously,
I guess subjectivity aside. Subjectivity aside.
Brett suddenly says subjectivity aside.
I'm just
never
saying,
thought I would see the day.
I don't push the subjectivity aside, but I'm just saying, like, ones that were extremely financially successful back to back. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go super chats.
Our first super chat came from Big Dave without a message.
Thank you, Big Dave.
Regatan said, as a Balinese, I feel my homeland may be in danger.
Is that close to...
I don't know anything about how Bali is related to the geopolitical crisis right now, but I hope you're okay.
Okay.
Yesh said, make sure to hoodwink the hood button, you winkers.
Guys, I tried. I wanted to make the thumbnail hoodwink earlier, and Mary said no hoodwink. She vetoed.
I didn't think you were actually serious.
It fit perfectly in the line.
Chris Noski said, do we really need another Batman movie? We don't need any movies, really.
There's also
a lot of people want one.
There's also some information. They're saying that they might bring Lobo into DC, which is a DC character. And
didn't James Gunn post Lobo on his Twitter or his Instagram story or something?
And they're saying they want Jason Momoa to play that character, so he gets to be both characters.
Why?
And imagine how insulting that is to a world of actors. Like,
I don't even like the same actors from the MCU taking roles in the DCU or vice versa.
I enjoy that because I see it as a challenge of the filmmaker. Like, can you get me out of that environment? What if they hired Robert Downey Jr. as Batman? Holy crap. Like if they did a Batman Beyond with Robert Downey Jr.'s Batman as Bruce Wayne.
That's just pulling up the ladder behind you.
That would be freaking hilarious. And then it does super well.
Dash Fortune said, as Mary is Ghost Girl, it would make sense for her to be more Shadowcat power-wise.
So that's your name now? Shadowcat?
I guess so. I don't know. Potatoes for Seamus said, so chat says it's official. We have Brett as Brettman, Mary as Wonder Woman, and Dane as the Green Latinx, and featured guest star with Hannah Claire as Shredder, Badap as the arch nemesis, and the team must work together to prevent a Taco Bell wedding. Let's do it, everyone.
So it turns into a romantic comedy at the end?
But no, you have to prevent the wedding, not protect the wedding.
It's like the guy who's
so it's an anti-rom-com?
No, it's like the guy who never got a chance to say what he means to the girl of his dreams, and she's about to get married, and he has to show up on their wedding day to tell her how he feels.
Well, who am I getting married to then?
We'll have to figure that out.
And Brie Louise said Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Batman.
Also, Hillary Burton earlier, somebody said, Hillary Burton, is that the one married to Jeffrey Dean Morgan? Yes, it is.
We'll be talking about her later then.
Married to Negan himself.
I think that's all the super chats. All right, let's move on and talk about the blowback from a bunch of scolds on Twitter at SNL.
I like that term.
Despite their tisk-tisking, Chappelle is the one to thank for improving their ratings. They've been around 4 million a night.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
We'll get to that super chat later. They've been around 4 million viewers a night in this season, and that's down 20% from where they were last fall. So they're clearly struggling. I think that's probably related to the fact that the midterms were happening. It's brought down their average, and now that that's over, they're going to pick up. But it's not unrelated to the fact that they've had this cast change where some beloved cast members have left and they've been replaced at least by one non-binary cast member. And they still have to prove themselves. But Chappelle brought in 4.8 million viewers the night he was on recently. And I went and rewatched some monologues he did in 2016 and 2020. And it seems they always bring him on in November, right after the elections, because he's really good at not just lightening the tone, but also making some serious remarks that resonate with people. It wasn't always my favorite because in specifically in one of his monologues, he was talking about his neighbors who are farmers in Ohio, and how
poor whites, he says in the recent monologue.
Yeah, he looks down on the poor whites that live in this rural area that he has actually moved to. So, I mean, I wasn't a fan of that theme, but they seem to bring him along after the election season to sort of wake people up, bring them back to comedy and lighthearted entertainment. So I think he did exactly that. And now the most popular monologue on SNL's YouTube channel is his from 2016. The second most popular is his from 2020. And now his third monologue for SNL is quickly rising the ranks, and I think it's going to end up being third. Maybe it will even overtake his past ones. I bet it will.
It might eventually.
It's already at like 8.5 million views, and the highest viewed one is 20 million.
The article that I was reading listed it as 6.5 million, so it's already climbed 2 million since then.
And Dave Chappelle isn't solely the reason for bringing in those ratings on his night hosting, because I saw that Amy Schumer brought in 4.3 million viewers, which is
I don't know what that says about
insane to me. I don't know. That's bleak for the future of comedy.
Did that say something about bots? Like there's more bots than we think.
Or they're just lying?
Yeah. They're like, yeah, she brought in that many.
I don't know how it's possible.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that monologue. I doubt any of you have either subjected yourselves to that.
I'm guessing we don't have a huge Amy Schumer crossover audience here.
So compare, he brought 4.8 million viewers the other night, and he brought in 9 million viewers when he was on in 2020. I don't think that says anything about Dave Chappelle losing relevancy. That's only about SNL losing relevancy and needing him to do them the favor even more so than before.
Yep. And also he did, do you want to tell him about the fake?
Yeah,
it
seems that he's pulled a trick on the SNL staff, according to an anonymous source that claims to be an insider on Saturday Night Live. They said that during the dress rehearsal, Dave gave a fake monologue because he didn't want Lorne Michaels or anyone else to know what his real monologue was. So it seems like the first time SNL staff heard his monologue was live on air with the rest of us.
One of the things that I would invite you guys to go back and rewatch it and watch the reaction of the band members behind there.
Yes, someone pointed out that there was a guitarist, a female guitarist, who was the only one wearing a mask, and she did not seem very amused.
No, she did not. And there was another guy. There was another one who looked like he wanted to laugh more, but wasn't sure if he should.
Oh yeah, but Dave Chappelle's always like made people uncomfortable with jokes like that. It's not just this time that's happened. But yeah, there was one kind of pressed guitarist in the background. And I think that the message Dave Chappelle's irreverence is giving right now is, if you're not ready to make light of all of the shit that we've had to go through for the last 2 years, and if you're not ready to join in on the fun, then you can leave.
Yeah, and nobody...
It feels like a huge relief to hear someone say that.
I will not fault you for leaving. In fact, I won't think twice about it. Like once you go and you go off into do your own thing where you complain about everything else, that's fine. It's just like, don't force your unhappiness onto everyone else by being the scold, as you say, that everyone else, nobody wants people there that are doing that. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, and I think it's hilarious that even the idea, even if the story is not true, the idea that he would fake an inoffensive monologue to Lorne Michaels and the rest of SNL staff and hoodwink them, as you said.
Yes.
And then tell these jokes that actually are just poignant observations. I've seen people say Dave Chappelle is the funniest man alive who has never told a joke. And it's because it makes us laugh enough just to hear someone point out the absurdities of the cultural sensitivities that we're living in, that we're imprisoned in right now. Yeah. And it's a huge relief for people to feel noticed and spoken for like that they're not going insane, that they're not alone. And like this anxiety that is reaching a fever pitch right now, the jokes that Chappelle makes help ease that tension. That's why I think this is blowing up right now.
I also don't think I don't think it matters that I don't think it goes away. I think as long as the internet's around, as long as comment sections are around, as long as Twitter is around, which will allow journalists who have a point of view that they want to make to the world, meaning like if they want people to be outraged, they're going to find the 5 tweets on Twitter and then write an article about it. As long as there is mass communication for everyone to have, there will never be a return to normal where, if anything, I would say that things probably weren't all that different. It's just you weren't privy to everyone's feelings about everything all the time.
Right.
So there wasn't a large cauldron of anger and drama for people who write articles to pick from when they want to make their point to get somebody in trouble. I just don't see that changing as long as the internet is a thing. Like you can do that and get away from it yourself by not paying attention to it. We can do that, but
well, I swear the only people who were genuinely upset by Dave Chappelle's monologue were blue check journalists.
Well, $8 are the
and
$8
the
blue
CEO
checks?
of the ADL.
Yeah,
that was it. And it's like not even any Kanye supporters who were mad that he seemed to be roasting Kanye. It's all manufactured outrage. And by the way, even though it seems like he was roasting Kanye or making jokes at his expense, I think more than that, he was coming to his defense by saying exactly the same things he's been saying, but in a more articulate way because he has more credibility in the public eye right now.
It definitely was. I mean, he would point out that what he said, what you said is, he's like, thinking it isn't crazy. Saying it out loud is crazy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, of course, someone like Dave Chappelle is going to end up in the crosshairs of the establishment. It's because 15 minutes of Dave Chappelle just winging it is funnier than any hour-long planned special that you can find on Netflix by a bunch of these mid comedians that don't know how to appeal to people.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to his credibility. Like when somebody else delivers a special, you have to wonder how many people did these jokes go through before they got to screen. You imagine that Dave Chappelle has more creative control over his material. If you remember when Andrew Schultz bought his special back so that he could release his special without the concerns of censorship from Netflix or whichever streaming service. I don't think he ever actually released which streaming service it was that wanted him to censor jokes, but he bought it back from them and then released it and made twice as much money on his own.
That's why I think that cancel culture, or whatever you would like to call it, is actually acting as a cleansing fire for entertainment and comedy right now. Because where the real comedy wants to go, it will go, and people will pay to see it.
Yeah.
There is nothing recognizable as comedy right now on television.
Or movies.
Not
really.
And if anyone is offering it, it will be found.
Yeah. Basically, it's all just shock humor. It's like the only thing you can get now, and observational humor. Like there's some
and like gross, crude sex jokes from Amy Schumer.
But that's not actually funny.
Actually, it's just revolting. It's basically Amy Schumer's sex jokes are the same level of like crass as like liquid to the face jokes in like all of those 2000s parody movies, like barf to the face jokes.
Which was never funny.
The same level of like low brow, like low to the molten core of the earth brow humor.
Durazno Kid says Mary should be a stand-up comedian. What do you think about that?
I could literally never do that, and I'm a woman.
Well, I wasn't going to point it out, but
women are less funny, or at least they're less funny in that context.
The reason being that it is not evolutionarily necessary for women to develop senses of humor.
That is at least a huge reason
yes.
why. I mean, maybe more than that, it's just because men command more of a presence on stage than women do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them better at it. But I want to say there seems to be a change in tune from Dave Chappelle, and he's had to go through this cleansing fire as well. And it's improved him as a comedian, even if you thought there was no room to improve.
Just getting away from the trans jokes was a big improvement. Not because I don't think that the stuff he said about it wasn't funny, because I think it was. I think it's that you run the risk of it becoming all you are and focusing too much on that.
Mm-hmm. Part of this rumor from Page Six was actually that he had written a joke about the staff member on their writers team that was boycotting him, and that joke got scrapped from the final monologue. I don't know if that's actually true.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's team claims that no one boycotted him. There's no evidence of that. But Celeste Yim did post that complaint on her Instagram story about how transphobia is murder. And it was timely, to say the least. So, assumptions can be made, and maybe they wanted to hide that there was a disagreement behind the scenes. But he decided to get away from the jokes about, gender ideology, as funny as they can be in their own moment. That's one way that I saw him improve. But also he improved upon the way his monologues went in 2016 and in 2020.
In what way?
I just noticed that in his previous monologues, he drew more clapter than laughs.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were watching it
in
today.
parts, and it was not accomplishing the task that he was brought there to do, which is pull people out of that election insanity and that mental deterioration that we were experiencing in 2016.
Kind of like Ricky Gervais when he did his first stand-up after lockdowns. He had to give people permission to laugh again. He's like, I want to remind you guys that this
just shake them away.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It doesn't make you a bad person for laughing.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
And something else, I already mentioned this, but he did in I think his 2020 monologue, he mocked poor white people who live in rural America who are affected by the opioid crisis and the anguish and purposelessness. And he was sort of mocking that's felt in those communities while lifting up his own. And that doesn't feel like comedy to me.
No.
I mean, that's fine if those are your beliefs, but that doesn't make people laugh. And I could tell it didn't even make a leftist audience laugh.
Or if it did, if it was meant to be that, it could have been done better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just didn't feel right. But this time around, he's done the best job he's done yet.
Yeah, he rode the line perfectly as to what was acceptable to say and what isn't. And that is, I think a lot of people don't. Okay, not a lot of people. I think it's fairly understandable that if you've ever told a joke and had it not land with your friends, that being a comedian is actually would be an extremely terrifying thing to do on stage. It is you have to put yourself out there in a way that most people, and I actually believe this is true of actors too, which is why I don't give actors the profession of acting as much of a hard time as a lot of other people do. A lot of people are like, you're paid to say lines and be something you're not, which is a ridiculously overly simplistic view of what they do. Mm-hmm. Emotionally, and which is why I do believe that a lot of them are so easily manipulated emotionally, is because you have to essentially lay yourself bare at the feet of a bunch of people in a room and put yourself out there emotionally. Have you ever tried to, we've done things here. Just think about how you say some line that you're supposed to say, even if you're recording an ad and you feel dumb saying it because it's not something you would normally say. And now imagine having to do that about some scene that has a certain amount of emotional intentionality, meaning you have to get a specific point across. So you have to convey emotion you're not feeling. It has to mean the right thing to the viewers because the director's trying to get a certain point across. And it goes the same with comedy, right? That is not an easy thing to put yourself out there to do. So for somebody like him to do it very well and intelligently proves to you just how difficult that job is and why people respond to it, which is why he's getting 4.8 million viewers per segment rather than 4.0 million viewers to the people who are propped up by a machine and not actually funny. They've just been given a bunch of clout by the name Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, a lot of ordinary people, this isn't a dig, they just don't have the heart, the courage, or the platform to do what Dave Chappelle does, to tell the jokes that he tells. And that's why I think they deserve him and other comics like him as a mouthpiece.
Yeah.
They need to feel like someone is speaking to the pressure they feel and is pushing back on this extreme fragility of our age.
Think there's a way we can solve it, assuming that we can't get rid of the internet, because then how would we do the show? If the internet is a thing and you're going to have to be subjected to the views of other people and not everyone's going to close their comment sections, content naturally doesn't do as well if the comment sections aren't open because engagement slows down. How do you get ahead and not let this stuff infect your society if we can't stop ourselves from being connected?
I think that Dave Chappelle's monologue actually is showing that there is a step towards a W for that.
Yeah. I guess it would be like you as the audience.
There's this I think that I heard Peter Kreeft call it a capitalism of the spirit in humanity, that like the good, or at least like what nourishes the soul, which comedy is part of that, will win out. The poor imitations of it will lose, and that's just inevitable. It's almost like a nature event. Like it's impossible not to laugh at something that's funny, and that's why I have faith that somehow this crisis we're in, where real, genuine comedy is not allowed to air, is going to solve itself. And I don't think we need to do anything to make that happen.
I think it becomes a generational problem. I think it gets solved generationally, meaning that the people growing up now will hopefully be kind of, it will become a scab that scabs over, and they learn to deal with the criticism and go forward with what they believe with more intent than the people who now timidly say what they mean, and then when they get pushed back, they pull back and they quit. Right. So maybe as the next generation grows up, knowing that it's an inevitability that you're going to be pushed back by people that are outraged by what you say, you will be more willing to stand true to what you believe. It's
different from established comics or celebrities who have witnessed cancel culture, wokeness as a slow burn that they've slowly had to adapt to, rather than just being thrown into the fire. Yep. So yeah, you're right. It could be generational.
As people take over these companies and understand that 5 angry people on Twitter does not mean that you pull something.
Yeah. Speaking of angry people on Twitter, I wanted to talk about this trend, #RIP Jimmy Fallon. So people were posting pictures of James Corden in black and white and saying, "Gone but not forgotten, rest easy king, September 19th to November 15th, 2022, RIP Jimmy Fallon." And I think this is really cracking a joke about the fact that all of these late night hosts that are bland, that live for the clapter.
They love the clapter.
They never make even an attempt at genuine comedy or entertainment. Yeah. They're all interchangeable. None of them have personalities. They're all just fake mannequins. They might as well be replaced by AI at this point.
Look at like Adam Carolla does really well on his own, just because he doesn't fall into that model. He's just because he came up with Kimmel, right? So they're next to each other, and you can kind of see them as like one going off this way and one going off that way.
Another tweet said, "Can't believe he died of ligma."
Did you see that?
He's resting easy with Harambe up there.
Did you see that Elon Musk brought ligma and Johnson into?
Yeah, I did.
Incredible.
So Jimmy Fallon responded to this trend last night saying, "Elon, can you fix this? #RIP Jimmy Fallon." And then Elon responded today saying, "Fix what?" And then someone quote tweeted Jimmy Fallon's tweet saying, "It's almost like he's still with us."
They did that in an episode of Leverage, where they fake a character's death, and there's this one character in the show named Parker who's just very socially awkward, and like every time she sees the character, she like touches her face. She goes, "It's like you're haunting us."
Owner and founder of Jimmy John's, Jimmy Fallon, has passed away last night. Your sacrifices will never be forgotten.
What are his sacrifices exactly? I ask you.
And of course, they post the picture where half of it is XXXTentacion and the other half is Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
He's resting easy up in the late night show in the sky with Harambe, with John McAfee, with Lil Peep. All the OGs.
I want to know what his sacrifices are. I want to know what Jimmy Fallon has sacrificed for society. I do.
Maybe his dignity.
That's a possible answer.
I bet he feels that way. And now it's just really delicious to see him publicly humiliated on the internet. You guys know I love cyberbullying. This is something I've been doing since I was a wee child.
Shannon says dignity and pride. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely sacrifice dignity and pride.
That's what you sell to get your blue check. You sell your soul. So that was just something I wanted to fly by. I love the internet sometimes, and Twitter seems to be going through a bit of a renaissance.
I did see that they were saying like some of the articles. I love some of like the really like fear mongering articles about the evils of Twitter now. They're like hate comments have jumped up by 54%.
Like how are you even calculating that? How do you categorize a comment as a hate comment?
Yeah. Well, it's like when people say hate speech, it's like, what does that mean?
It's like when people say that they're getting death threats. Everyone who has been on the internet for more than 2 seconds has probably gotten a death threat. It doesn't mean that they're credible. It doesn't mean that you're a victim. And it doesn't mean that they need to be censored. Anyone who disagrees with you is not to be censored because you feel threatened on the internet. Turn off your phone.
It's like the quote, everyone I don't like is a Nazi. Everything I do like is a human right.
Who tweeted just close your laptop, LOL, like was that Tyler the Creator?
It could, yeah, it might have been. Also, I mean, there's
or maybe it was like
Ethan Van Sciver has said similar things, like when people are like getting really like when he came out in like 2015 as like a Trump supporter, like he's a comic book writer, and like people would send him these just absolutely bonkers messages that were just like the most hateful, and like they were legitimate cries for help, right? Like, and he's like, his response would be like, it'd be a paragraph like this long. And he would just ask them, like, are you okay? Do you have anybody in your life that you can go talk to right now?
Probably not.
But that's the thing. Like, he's like, they're taking it as like he's saying it as like a joke, but he's actually asking them because he's trying to diffuse the situation. He's like, you need to go find people in your life that love you and talk to them. And yeah, they're saying it was Tyler the Creator that said that.
Yes. So. Yeah, it's exactly that. And I think that's maybe one of the best, if not the best tweet that's ever been posted to the platform.
Okay, then I do have this question. Do you think that's a little bit different for kids in high school that are so closely connected that it's not as easy as just like if somebody's saying negative or saying negative things about you and lying about you, that's not the same thing in a social structure like a school where you're going to face the consequences of what's said about you anyways? That's
when parental neglect is involved.
Well,
that's totally different.
We had that thing.
That's totally different from like Jimmy Fallon and other blue check journalists feeling like they're part of a protected class and emailing the communications at Twitter to selectively censor hashtags and trending terms for them.
Wasn't there like a thing for like it was like heroes of COVID, and journalists were like they like nominated themselves. They're like, and us for speaking truth to power during COVID.
Because we're so great.
Because we're so fantastic. All right, let's go to super chats.
Bad App said, then Mary unthaws my frozen heart. You mean thaws. And we live happily ever after and watch the world burn. If I unthawed your frozen heart, I would freeze it more.
Or maybe he's Mike Tyson and he's saying that he unsaw your frozen heart.
T-Bone said Dave Bautista as Lobo, Lucas Till as Flash.
Okay, I don't know about Dave Bautista as Lobo, but Lucas Till as the Flash, at least as far as his actual look, is a fantastic. He was in the MacGyver TV series, the 2016 MacGyver series. He definitely has the look of the Flash. I don't know if he's got the.
What the heck? He looks so young.
He's in his mid-20s.
No, he's 32.
Or is he?
Yeah, he's 32. He looks very young.
He was in that TV series. He's got like decent acting chops. I don't know if he necessarily has the comedy that might be necessary for that role.
I just realized the only thing I recognize him from is the Hannah Montana movie.
Was he in that? Okay. he was also in a couple of like funny. Or he was in a funny episode of House. But he's in general. Oh no, I'm sorry. He was in a not funny episode. He was in like a school bullying episode of House. Never mind. Where he plays like a kid who's like he's like friends with like a fat girl at school and like but like he won't tell his friends of the cool group. And like the girl, the girl ends up being pregnant and it's,
with his kid.
Yeah, it's a mess. But he's a good actor. So I maybe Batista, but the Lucas Till one's kind of an inspired decision. The question would be like, with Ezra Miller, he was an indie darling. Lucas Till is kind of what I would consider run-of-the-mill, blue-collar TV Hollywood, right? So putting him in a role that big at the franchise level would be a lot harder, I think. Like, you'd want a more established actor to do that.
I mean, I don't think of Ezra Miller as an established actor even for having been in Perks of Being a Wallflower.
But he's an indie darling, and I think that they were going a different way for that one. I feel like they would have to find another person who's either like an established indie performer or somebody who's a bigger name, though I can't think of. I like the Lucas Till idea. I do.
Yeah. 1,000 Foot Deep End said, "Happy Wednesday, PCC crew and fellow actors. Here's to a chill show with no tech issues as I start work." Yes, please.
We are at 55 minutes, and I do believe that maybe we should start an over-under on whether this stream ends up cutting out at 1 hour and 18 seconds exactly. I will point out that I ran 2 test streams yesterday, one last night and one today. Neither of them cut out at the 118 mark. So over-unders on whether it cuts out or not, I have no idea. Yes? No? Think it will?
How about you guys super chat if you think that...
I put all my money on it and then I just kill the stream and pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah. Dragon Stallion 1001 said, "Why couldn't I write movie reviews? We're in a pickle and I blame myself. That bunny was worthless, not to mention he wrote the directions on an Easter egg. You've been hoodwinked."
It's a quote, I'm assuming.
Waffle Sensei said, "The internet is a double-edged sword. With it, you have the radicalization and demoralization of a nation. But without it, we could never follow, call out, and organize around their lies." Yeah, the fact that everything is archived and, you know, all of it can be linked. I think people aren't able to hide their tracks as well because of the internet. And I've actually seen a lot of the people complaining about the new leadership at Twitter getting exposed for like having violated the TOS many times back in the Dizzy. Like
in the Dizzy,
it's always what happens is like the most sanctimonious people on Twitter, you word search their username with certain slurs, you find tweets from like 2011 and before every single time.
Yeah, they never have the ability to like. You think some self-reflection would be in order, right? Like if you're going to be sanctimonious, you would at least clear your history. And like,
it's really easy, actually.
You think trying to cover your tracks would be like, or are they just?
There are even bots that do that. Indie Uke said, "Ever notice how Dave trains the crowd to laugh by hitting the mic against his leg? He's very good at controlling the audience's reactions." I didn't notice that.
He also has the ability where he lets his own laughter creep in. Like sometimes when he did
the way he like stares at them.
Yeah, Chris Rock was
and
good
starts
at that
to
too.
smile.
He did what he did. The best one that he did is that he did the bit about Jussie Smollett, and he does this thing where he goes, and he was the victim, and then he just can't stop laughing. Like he starts laughing at the idea of Jussie Smollett being a victim of a racist and a homophobic attack. But he's like, it's the laughter and the break in his facial expression that trains the audience to be able to understand that they can laugh along with him.
And not as like a cue card, but as a genuine chemistry.
Yep.
Dragon Stallion 1001 said, "Not gonna cut out. Mary isn't talking about the white guy being better at his job."
What
were we talking about?
The Lion King. I think it was during the Lion King segment that
on
it cut
Monday.
Out on Monday. No, on Tuesday. Right? On Tuesday.
Yesterday it was when we were in the middle of talking about Ollie London, and then people were saying that it's YouTube censoring a biological woman from speaking out against a non-biological woman.
It's the world we live in these days, guys.
Could be. If it happens again, I'm venturing to guess it's YouTube.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, but it didn't happen yesterday when I was streaming.
There's some maniacal YouTube employee watching us
who just
right
hates
now.
us. He's like we have the Fed who I created my own Fed that I believe is watching us
just
in a van
twirling
somewhere.
his mustache.
His name is Tad Bromwell. That's the name of our Fed.
Not Joe Schmo?
No. His name's Tad Bromwell, and he's a blue. He grew up in a blue collar family, and he's rooting for us, even though his boss, his ASAC in charge, is definitely out to get us, and he's there supporting us. He's watching everything that happens at the castle, and he's like, it's like his own reality show.
Oh, yeah. I love this.
Yep.
Potatoes for Seamus said, "Brett, I want your hat if the show cuts out."
Look, I love.
Are you actually gonna mail it to him?
I love this hat. I can't let go of this hat. I maybe another one.
Bad App said, "I highly recommend the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run. It has Keanu Reeves. Take on Me from Aha and My Heart Will Go On by Kenny G."
Wait, The Celine Dion song performed by Kenny G? Or is that just a Kenny G song of the same
performed
name?
on sax, I would guess, by
Yes.
Kenny G. What am I saying? Rega Tan said G20 is in Bali. Some secret cabal might just blanket.
Yeah. Oof.
Geez.
Isn't it funny here?
Okay.
Okay.
You're not actually there.
I have a question. I was told that some people, like, you can't even super chat the word communist. Like, somebody said, like, they tried to do it, and every time they would try to send it, it would block the chat from sending. But you can say
communist.
Communist.
Well,
but you can say
someone commented on one of our videos saying, like, I'm not even allowed to say, what was the word that they wanted to say? They couldn't comment the word racism or something.
Sounds about right.
And then they thought that we were deleting the comments.
Yeah, well, a lot of things go to like hold for review, like section, that's different. So,
let's move on though.
All right,
and talk
guys.
about Great American Family.
All right, guys. So
based.
It is extremely based, but I have both strong opinions in which I agree with, but I also think there's room, a little bit of room for some nuance with this one.
Okay.
So it says, Candace Cameron Bure, who looks very good for her age, in my opinion, draws left-wing anger after confirming that Bill Abbott's new Great American Family Network will keep traditional marriage at its core. Now, if we do get cut out, or they're like, now they're cutting us out at an hour and 18 minutes for traditional values
must be targeted
conversation.
Directly at Candace Cameron Bure.
So it says the same forces that led to Hallmark's new woke direction and subsequent creation of the Great American Family Network are now targeting the fledgling entertainment venture for refusing to make the same mistake its predecessor did. And I'm going to read her quote here. She says, I think Great American Family will keep traditional marriage at its core, said the actress. Now, this is Candace Cameron Bure. She was talking to the Wall Street Journal. I do want to point out that
that was when they specifically
asked about it,
whether programming on this network is going to feature same-sex couples. And it's honestly strange that they would ask a question like that. And it begs the question that Hallmark was all about showing same-sex couples. And okay, the history of how Great American Family like came into the possession of Bill Abbott, its new CEO, is interesting because he was at Hallmark, or at least Hallmark's parent company. What is it? Crown Family Media or something like that. He was there for 2 decades, and for 11 of those, he was the CEO. And it seems like he almost got ousted because he didn't agree with the decision to feature an ad for a wedding planning service that featured a same-sex couple kissing in it.
Yeah.
And so firstly, they received backlash from their mainly conservative audience for having this ad. They pull the ad, and then they get backlash from the progressives because they're being homophobic.
That was the worst thing they could have done is pull the ad at that point.
Then
Just
they
leave it go.
apologize, put the ad back, and then promise to feature a bunch of same-sex couples in their new movies.
Yep.
And it's completely artificial and completely planned by HR reps, and it didn't resonate with either side that they pissed off. It was totally pointless in the end.
There needs to be an actual, like, you know how we talk about the consultant class? There needs to be a guy whose job it is to be like, whatever you do, you either pull the ad and you stand by it, or you commit to it. You do not try to play both sides, because when you try to play both sides, neither side wins.
That happened at the end of 2019, and then Bill Abbott left Hallmark in 2020 and then acquired Great American Family.
Yep. And here's what Hillary Burton said. Now, Hillary Burton is somebody that has worked on Hallmark movies in the past. She was also a very popular character that I liked in the show White Collar. Very, very good.
The snark is palpable.
Yes. So she says, now they're just openly admitting their bigotry. I called this S out years ago when Abbott was at Hallmark. Glad they dumped him. Being LGBTQ isn't a trend. That guy and his network are disgusting. You too, Candy. There is nothing untraditional about same-sex couples.
Which is quite literally untrue.
This is my point. It shows her level of projection here, because what it is yes, it is untraditional. The problem is you're the one who's assuming that being untraditional means bad. We can all have our own opinions on what that is, but she's projecting something that isn't there. It's not that Candace Cameron Bure said, we don't want to have this in there because we think it's bad. She comes off looking like the more reasonable person here just because she keeps on message and doesn't stray away from a positive framework, right? So when people break down into this type of zealotry, which is what I do believe this is, there is a stark difference in how Candace Cameron Bure is relaying what she's talking about with her with this new company and what Hillary Burton is saying. It's kind of like what a guy named Tim who wears a beanie used to say about, I don't know if you know who that is, but he would talk about how like conservatives would win people over because as you ban the more over the top people and all that's left are middle of the road ones wearing suits, those people seem more reasonable and they draw more people in. I feel that when somebody comes off that insane with their tweets, which comes off as both virtue signaling and a little bit maniacal, like you lose people. You lose people like me who doesn't have a problem with gay marriage, who does not have a problem with even seeing it on. But with seeing it on screen. But it's like
what she's saying doesn't even make sense to the crowd she's trying to appeal to. Yeah. The angle that there's nothing untraditional about same-sex couples, it doesn't make sense because the official narrative at this point, as the goalposts have been moved, is yes, there is something untraditional about same-sex couples in media, and that's a good thing. And we are discarding all traditions, and you should celebrate that.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't reflect your life or the lifestyle of anybody you know, maybe, you should still celebrate that this is being portrayed on television.
Also, I do want to point out that there is a long way, like there's a big in-between route between like a gay same-sex couple in a Hallmark movie and Bros. like
yeah, Bros was a major failure at the tone of how like a normal rom-com is supposed to go.
Also, let's face it. When this stuff happens, whenever somebody complains and they want to go do this stuff, they say, "Well, go if you don't like it, go make your own channel, go make your own social media."
Then when you do, they shit on you and try to get you censored.
They follow you there and complain. So what's the point?
So also, next thing she said in response to Candace Cameron Bure saying that the GAC network are good Christians that love the Lord, she said, "Bigot. Yeah. I don't remember Jesus liking hypocrites like candy, but sure, make your money, honey. You ride that prejudice wave all the way to the bank."
The snark is it's insufferable. And that's what I'm saying. They lose people like me, who is more middle of the road. I'm not going to be down with what they're saying because you're being a dick.
Right, exactly. And also, like, Candace Cameron Bure hasn't said anything negative about Hallmark.
That's what I'm saying about her delivery.
She is the exact opposite tone. She's unbothered. Yes. She's doing something positive and creative rather than destroying something.
And people will gravitate to that eventually.
And all someone like Hillary Burton Morgan is capable of doing is complaining and destroying and tearing things down.
And I say wokeness it's like that. They cannot build anything.
It's a black hole.
They couldn't even build it new with the Hallmark Channel. They had to build it off the backs of more traditional couples and more traditional stories. And this is what I was talking about yesterday, right? Like what makes it woke is that you can't do it on your own. Yeah. It's that you have to wait until something is established, has its audience, has its foothold, and then you come in and bring your story that nobody seems to want. That's not me saying that. That's numbers saying that nobody seems to want, and then get mad when they don't like it because you've shoehorned yourself into a place where somebody else built themselves up in a meritocratic method. So the other pushback, I will say, I do wonder sometimes if maybe conservatives lose a little bit of the plot when they talk about, they want stuff like this, right? And I agree. I have no problem wanting to see traditional values on screen. That's certainly would be my preference. But it does still fall into the same, I want to see myself on screen. I want to see stuff like me on screen. It's just slightly less skin deep than this color of your skin. It's saying, these are my values and I want to see them reflected on screen. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying it's something to consider when you push back on the argument that people want to see themselves, meaning their skin color.
I disagree.
Okay.
The ordinary representation narrative, especially as it relates to showing same-sex couples, is I want to see what's wrong with me on screen. And anything functional, I want it to not be on screen ever. So the representation narrative is about seeing themselves on screen to the exclusion of everybody else being seen on screen ever. And then what someone like Candace Cameron Bure is proposing is, well, you do your thing, I'll do mine.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the essential desire to see characters that reflect your lifestyle or your values on screen is the same as that narcissistic impulse to project all of your pathologies and all of your ideological hang-ups on screen. That's not the same thing.
I'm not even saying I'm making that argument. I'm saying that if I'm looking at it from the other side of the aisle, I can understand that argument that
they're not even bringing up that argument because they're stupid. So maybe don't even do the hard work for them of bringing it up.
I would try to steel man the argument if I could. That's just the way I saw it. And like I said, like to me, stuff like this, it's like, it's what you said. They're off doing their own thing. Just go do your own thing and allow other people to do their own thing and understand that it's a good thing that everybody has options. Right? Isn't that the whole point of these type of capitalistic endeavors is that somebody has a need. Candace Cameron Bure finds a need in society right now. People want to see traditional stories told on screen that support family values, that support this type of feel-good message. That's a need. That's a story that people want told. And it's also true that, let's face it, why does every story need to include something from another community? Sometimes that's not the story you're telling, and that's fine.
Why does it need to be about the minority always? When that's not representation according to like the real demographics of society, that's actually amplifying something that is not as relevant as you think it is.
It makes it seem more common than it is in society. By the way, guys, I just want to give a heads up. We're at an hour and 12. We're coming up on 118.
The pressure is rising.
On. So it says she's filling a need, and then people have to get in here and tell her off for it, which sucks. She also got this is a letter. It's a post made by her daughter, Natasha. Is it Natasha? Natasha, is it Burr? Is it Burr or is it?
I think it's Burr.
I always say Burr. I don't know if it is, but that's fine. This is a message from her after the pushback that she got in the media. She posted a picture of her family and she says, I love you, Candace Cameron Bure, for continuously choosing Christ before all. The media is an absolutely vile space for negativity, and I applaud you every time for how you handle yourself with the utmost grace. As they continuously twist the narrative to beat down the kingdom, you stand firm in faith and never let others dim your light for him. No matter how out of context or warped the words may get to the enemy will not prevail. Society has gotten completely out of hand with believing every strategically worded headline broadcasted by the media, followed by cancel culture, which is nothing but ugly. It is so incredibly sad to watch. I am lucky to get to view you from a lens closer than most and see how you are truly the real deal. The Lord shines through you time and time again. The battle is his. So they've clearly done a very good job of raising their family to not bow to social pressure.
They feel
confident
in what they're doing
in Christ. And I imagine that it's what's kind of scary to me on that is like the faith that someone like her or you that might put in Christ that gives you that heart to push forward when everyone's telling you you're wrong or that you're this or you're that. It's like they have it from their own weird, creepy, ideological, religious type perspective, but it's filled with so much less compassion and so much more hatred to me.
Yeah. Believe Christianity or not, it's true that it's in the Bible. It says you will be hated for following Christ. Yep. And not in the self-indulgent way that people embrace oppression narratives now. Yep. It's not that you're supposed to indulge yourself in feeling put upon. It's that it's supposed to give you more heart, that you're going to have a greater reward later on.
Yeah. And I think like it's just, and it feels so much more healthy to me. Like as somebody who's not religious, like who's just maybe just because growing up in the confines of a majority Christian or Catholic society, right here in America, it feels like there's just so much more room for forgiveness and growth there, and more live and let live than seems to be applicable to what's going on with
this would
general
be different
woke
if
culture.
Candace Cameron Bure were going on Twitter getting in a back and forth with Hillary Burton. She's not doing that.
I do want to point out here, Bree Louise says Candace Cameron Bure was just being sassy to Alex Clark from Politics for some reason recently, actually.
I would love to know why.
I think she didn't like something Alex posted in regards to Halloween. They're going cat fight.
Ooh,
Is Alex Clark religious? I don't know.
I doubt it, but I don't know.
Okay. So we will see. I think it's interesting because they always tell you, go out, make your own things. Go out, do this. If this is what you value, make your own social media platform. Oh wait, not like that. Amazon pulls your servers.
Right. They say make your own Twitter, and then they want to take it away from you when you do. Yep. And then when you make your own Hallmark, they want to take that away from you. That's why you can't listen to them in the first place. Yep. It's all completely dishonest.
Yep. Johnny Derp says faith is a bulwark against hopelessness.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and we talk a lot about how there does seem to be a general trend upwards in hopelessness, in doomerism, whether it's, Gen Z being scared out of their gourd every single day about how the world is ending because of climate change and all these things. And as religion becomes less and less prevalent in this country, it's like the fear goes up and the coping skills and the faith goes down, and society suffers as a result. So
let's read some super
chats.
Let's
do it. And by the way, we are on the clock, guys. We are at 1 minute and 16 seconds. We're getting there.
The pressure is on.
Need a shirt that says like 118.
Any minute now.
Yeah, 118.
The trauma is very clearly on display right now. Bad App said communist, so I guess you can super chat the word communist.
Well, it works.
Hava Owens said Mike David from Red Bar provides the best comedy.
I'll have to check that out.
Johnny Derp said, as a proud member of the LGHD TV community, I take offense as the offense taken. We need to normalize being straight. That is all. I mean, that's the thing about being straight is like you really don't need to normalize it because it's normal.
Was that the reason that the word cis was introduced to not normalize
to take away the fact that it's the default state?
Yeah. Yep.
Not wanting to get a bunch of cosmetic medical procedures.
Parodification says Brett 118. It's like Stone Cold. It's like Austin 316.
You're like going to get it tattooed on your forehead.
Austin 316 says I just kicked your ass. It'd be like Brett 118 says I just killed your stream.
Hava Owens said these celebrities are insufferable narcissists.
Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to go back. I didn't even get to point out. Mary didn't see this. I saw it this way. When I look at this and I look at this picture of Candace Cameron Bure looking very, very put together, even here where she's in the middle of saying something, right? And then I look at Hillary Burton and she just looks kind of nuts to me there.
Where was that taken?
It says Hillary Burton Morgan on Instagram led to heartbreaking episode of true crime. She's on the Rachel Ray show.
Look, I'm gonna tell Tulsi Gabbard that you have an unfair bias
against gray hair.
Well,
here's the point. I don't have a problem against gray. One gray streak is fine. The gray roots, I'm kidding. It's her face. She's making a face in the hair. The hair's stringy.
I think she looks fine. I think they look exactly the same.
Here's Brett, pro-gay marriage, but also, shaming a woman for her looks.
I shame women for their looks more than you do.
He's an inevitable mystery.
You can never predict.
We're at 1:18:32. We have made it past.
We crossed the finish line.
We did it, guys.
Unless it's still going to fail at some point.
So we're gonna hopefully make it, guys. We're working on it.
BMF Nate Dogg said, "I don't mind SS or same-sex couples on TV as a joke."
Okay.
I mean, is that how it was before? I wasn't around to know.
I mean, it's become so much more commonplace.
Being gay was definitely a joke in the 2000s.
Oh yeah, it would be. It would definitely be something that would. There was a line, and I was watching the show Royal Pains, which was a great show. Everyone should go watch Royal Pains if you're looking for easy watching. That's very, very like calming. It's about this guy who's a doctor in the Hamptons. He becomes a doctor in the Hamptons after his wife leaves him, or his fiance leaves him because a patient dies on the table.